to blog 49 of Tackle the Feelings Before the Behaviour. And my name's Paula, and this blog is called Your Tone of Voice Speaks Its Own Language. So most of my videos, if you've been watching any of them, are around parenting. But this blog is for everyone. And I am going to put a bit of parenting in this because it's so important, and it's what has inspired me to make a video on this topic. So it seems like we know that our tones of voice can influence other people, but we don't really think about how subtly we often do this as a way of blocking off or avoiding conflict or dismissing somebody, or just whatever the reason, we do this often. And a good example would be when you don't really like something and someone asks you about it and you know it's important to them and you're like, oh, I love it, it's great. And you can hear in my voice there's an air of fakeness about what I'm saying. And it's this that I want to draw your attention to, because whether we are aware of it or not on a conscious level, there's something inside us that is very aware of it unconsciously. And we can tell these inauthentic relationships around us on an unconscious level. And we can also sometimes tell on a conscious level. The more empathic you are, the more sensitive you are to those subtle changes in people and tones, the more you're going to see this. And it can be quite debilitating for you to notice that people might not be so genuine with you, or they might not actually like you. And if you've got your own problems with not being liked and your own self-esteem issues, this can really sting. So it's really good when we think of parenting, or when we're looking at how we were parented, to look at how, what we call in the psychobabble world, congruence. And so it's looking, as a therapist, I would be looking to see if what somebody is saying is matching how they're saying it, their body language, the context of the story. Does it all add up? Is it all congruent? So you can match different parts of the story, or you can look at their tone of voice and how they're coming across. And so if someone's saying, no, I'm fine, but they're as flat as a pancake, have barely any affect in their face and their tone, you know they're probably more on the depressed side than fine, but they're not wanting to share that with you. So it's to put in the back of your head. So it's a really good skill to have, to be able to start using things like tone of voice, body language, and how we are coming across to other people, how other people are coming across to us, and really paying attention to that. In parenting, this is vital, because children aren't socialized fully yet. Some of them are barely socialized. They're little, and they're just doing what they need to do to learn. So they're living in the present. What we think is attention-seeking behavior is just trying to get those needs met. Those fears, those insecurities, that's all part of being a dependent, being a child. Having to rely on somebody else for your survival is going to have its own anxiety. The less you help children through that, the less you're able to help them manage those big emotions, the more they're going to present in the form of tantrums and bad behavior and all of that. So what you want to be doing is learning how to teach yourself how to manage those emotions in your kids, to regulate emotions. It's not something that's new. We've had the research on this for a long time, but in the grand scheme of it, it is new. And in parenting, it is brand new, because it's only becoming accessible through books, through us learning about attachment, or that relationship between parent and child, or primary caregiver and child. We're learning all of this, and now we know it is really important for us to validate our children's emotions, for us to help them build healthy relationships to everything that they're feeling, so they don't form these negative coping mechanisms that don't serve us when we get older, that prevent us from having healthy relationships, prevent us from having a healthy relationship to ourselves. And a big part of this is to match and mirror those emotions as they're coming up for your child. You're validating them by mirroring them. by using your voice. You're not smiling and saying, "Oh, you're really sad." That's so insulting. Imagine somebody said that to you when you were crying with a big smile on their face. Is my pain amusing? It's the same for a child. They're not going to respond very well to you finding it cute that they're crying over a sippy cup or something equally as mundane. But for them, those emotions are as big as your sadness would be if something big had happened. So that's what you need to keep in mind and match your voice. You want to use soothing, empathic tones with sadness. "Oh, sweetheart, it's okay. Do you want to cuddle? It's all right." You want to talk slow. You want to talk soothing, and you want to bring in gentleness. And this is especially true for fathers. I have this conversation with more dads than mums a lot of the time, to try and help bring in that gentleness and that soothing. Because often fathers are really great at the rough and tumble and the games and the explaining and the teaching and all of those things, but nurturing, because little boys didn't really receive much of that back in the day and still aren't. It's hard to teach something that was never given to you, but we know that little boys need it as much as little girls. We know that little girls and little boys both need it equally from their fathers, if they're able to get that from their fathers as well as their mothers. So if you can bring in that gentleness and use your tone of voice, make it slow, make it steady, make it gentle. Now, when anger comes up, and this is for all relationships, it is very hard to remain in control of yourself, because you're going to get angry too. You're going to get frustrated. You're going to get defensive. When someone's lashing anger at you, even a child, you want to assert your power as well, match that. As a parent, it's very important to step back and be the one in control. To get to that level means you're matching their childlike emotions. To be able to remain in control, will model that for them. Will show them when you're saying calm down, don't just say it, show them what calm is. And that's a big mistake a lot of people make, is that they can't understand why their children aren't listening. But they're watching you, and they're seeing that you are hyper and irritated and screaming and all of that, and you're telling them to calm down. They don't know what calm is. They don't know what you're asking of them because they're not seeing it. So watch yourselves, watch your voice. Do you need to talk slowly and clearly so that they understand you? Do you need to repeat yourself? That's something that happens a lot as well. You need to repeat yourself so kids can put that into their brains. It takes a while, a lot of repetition for a neural pathway to be created, a dominant neural pathway that becomes their default. So we're creating all of that. So much learning is happening. Use your tone of voice. It speaks its own language, because that's the level that they're seeing. They're watching, children are watching for your reactions. People are all watching that. Unconsciously, we are very aware of those little tones, of that body language, of things like that. Be mindful of how you're coming across. Sometimes hard to take that feedback, but be mindful of it. Are you coming across in a way that is kind and gentle, or are you intimidating and scary? Are you opening yourself up for healthy communication, or are you blocking the very thing you want? So using your tone of voice is very important. Being self-aware is very important. So I hope that's been helpful. Have a great week. Bye.